Good morning, class. You're welcome to our lesson today. Um, Before I go on, I just want to mention a few things about the last class. In the last class, we talked about pi variables and pi constants. Okay, I'll just say one or two things briefly to also further clarify, throw more light on that. And Python variable, like the name implies, means variable simply means change. Okay, something that has the ability to change, possibly change in value or change in whatever form. Now I'm just going to give you example. For instance, I have the norm equals to 5. If I say norm is equals to 5 and I say print norm, okay, and run this code, 5 will be printed out. It means that the value of our variable 5, of our variable norm, is 5. Then that same variable norm can still be assigned a different value from 5. So I can say norm equals to 7 equals to 9. Then I type again, print norm again. Alright, then I run my code. Okay, so I'm gonna have 9. The 5 and 9 are printed out down here, and what simply is happening there is that the first code we wrote was being executed, then followed by the second code. 5 was executed, then 9 was later executed. Yes, so that is for Python variables. So you can have a different assignment to that as well. You can still have that same norm equals to you can say Monday. Okay, Monday, and then you say print norm again, print norm, and then I run the code. I'm going to have 5, 9, Monday. So you're seeing that all these things are actually values assigned to norm. Okay, so that's why it's called a variable. But we also have what we call constants. Okay, we have what we call constants, like the name implies. Constants do not change in value. Okay, the value assignment to constant do not change. Okay, so for you to have a constant, we have a customized constant you can actually create for yourself. You can do that by opening a file. You can go to the file, open a file, go to new, and then you create a file and name it. Also give it whatsoever name you want to name it. You can say constant dot whatsoever, but like I told us, if you're opening and saving anything in Python program, you must not forget the extension. So if you're opening a customized constant file, you can name it constant dot py. That py actually tells you that this file is a Python file extension, and if you forgot to include the py in your file opening, definitely you will not be able to use this file in Python program. Python will not recognize this file, and that is why, for you to be able to code effectively and to make it easy for yourself within the Python environment, your files must have this extension of py, dot py at the end of it. So you can name it constant dot py, and then you save it. Okay, you save it. Well, I'm not going to save this because already I created a constant dot py file. You can see it up here. But since I have that, I'm not going to duplicate that. But if I click on this now, I'm just going to go ahead to save this and to create a new file. So if I'm doing this now, it's going to be like me duplicating the previous constant file I created for myself. So I'm just showing you the process. Okay, so I'll just exit this. Now this, I'll go to the constant file I created before. I created this, and I said pi is equals to 3.142. I said gravity is equals to 9.8. Now you would agree with me that pi is actually a general constant. It doesn't change. The value of pi in Nigeria is the value of pi in the United States, and also the value of pi anywhere in the world. So that is why pi does not change, and gravity is 9.8. Okay, 9.8 is a general agreed constant and it doesn't change, so that is why we call this constant. So if I go back to my main.py where I want to write my code, it's a different file. This is a different file where I want to write my code. I want to make use of my constant. For me to make use of that constant, I'm going to import constants. Okay, so with this I've actually activated a reference to my constant.py file. Okay, so I can actually say print, okay, of the constant, because that's the name of my file, dot py. Please let it be in capital, please. Py. Okay, sorry. Py. Then also I'll say print. Okay, constant again. I'm putting constant because I'm making a reference to that created file, my constant.py file. I want it to give me something from that file. That's why I'm saying constant dot. Now what do I want to get from that file? I want to get the value of my gravity, and it must be in capital letter, please. So I'll just do this. So now I've actually called for those values in the other module I created. The module I created constant.py. Now I'll go ahead to run my code. Alright, I'll go ahead and run my code, and you can see the values. I called for constant.py, I called for gravity, and now you can see under here, under the execution dialog box, you can see that we have the value of pi printed out as 3.142. We also have the value of our gravity printed out as 9.8. Alright, so at your own leisure time, I would seriously recommend that you practice this, okay? Because if you don't practice, then you're not forging ahead at all. You see how you can actually practice this. Try this out. If you have not tried this out, then you have not done anything at all. Yes. So now I'll go back to I want to use my online compiler. I'll be using my online compiler today, so I'll go back to my online compiler. Okay, now we're going to look at Python data types. Python data types. I think I started off with this in the last class, and I mentioned that in the data types we have the integers, we have the floats. Okay, so if I said, I can say number, I can say number equals to 5. This is actually an integer. Okay, in Python this is recognized as an integer. How do I know? I can say verify, for instance. I can say verify this equals to, I'll say type. There's a function in Python program called type. I'm going to use the type function to know the type of data type I have there, So I'm going to say type, then in brackets I'm going to put my num. Okay, I want to know the Python data types we have there, so I'll just go ahead and print verify. Print in quotes verify. Okay, then let me run the code. I'll run the code. It should give me the data type. So the class now we have there is what? Int. Is an int class. Okay, so I can do the same thing as well. I can say num2 equals to 3.5. 3.5 is a decimal. And then I can still verify also. Verify 2 equals to type. I still use my type function. I said if you want to know the class of the data you're dealing with or the number type you're dealing with, you can use your type function. Then in parentheses, I'm going to have my num2. Sorry, I made a mistake with the spelling. I'm going to correct that. Num2. Okay, then I'll come here and make that same correction. Num2. Then I'll print verify 2 to know the class. Okay, verify to, sorry, print verify to. Okay, print verify to. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and run the code. Now you can see the types we have there: class, interval, sorry, integer, then class, float. Okay, so you can see that we can use the type function to actually get the class of our Python number system. Alright, so Python numbers, you can see we have looked at that. We can use the type function. The type function is very, very important for us to get our class, okay, in the number system. So the next thing also I want to talk about there is the Python list. In the last class, I actually introduced the Python list, and I said I talked about 3 things in the last class, but today we can just look at them in details. Now, I said the Python list actually a kind of set of ordered, organized, items enclosed in a square bracket. Okay, enclosed in a square bracket. That's our Python list. I'm going to use my hash sign to just give a comment. I'll say, okay, Python list is an ordered, okay, is a list of ordered set of items, okay. Then I'm going to also include another comment. A Python list, is mutable. Okay, mutable. I'm going to explain what that means. Alright, Python list is mutable. Okay. Then also to guide us in this lesson, okay, figure out ways to access items in the Python list. Okay, Python list. You can also add, so change items in the Python list. Okay, so I'm writing out these comments to actually guide us as we look at the Python list. Okay, now I'm going to give, let me say, okay, I have this. No, like again, I like using this. I don't know, but now I'm supposed to 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now this is a very good example of a Python list. No, but that's number is equals to 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. Right, it's a Python list. So the few things we need to understand, I said a Python list is mutable. Okay, these are actually ordered items, and then I said a Python list is mutable. Now it simply means that in a Python list you can actually make changes. Okay, you can change, you can access the items, you can change the values of items in the Python list. But before we go on, I'd like to gently, clearly explain some things to us. Okay, now there is what we call indexing. Okay, I'm going to include that in my comments. Okay, indexing. Okay, indexing. Okay, all right. Okay, let me just make it. I'm okay with this. Okay, indexing operation. In Python. I think this should be okay. Alright, now when we mean index, we are talking about the powers. I want us to understand something. For us to be able to access item in this list, every single entity in this list have been assigned certain index or power. Now this is the convention. Going from your left to the right, okay? The first item here is 2. And for 2 here, the index assigned to 2 is 0. Okay, the next item there is 4. After 0, you'll be counting 1. The next item there is 6. After 1, you'll be counting 2. Then you have 3, 4, 5. Alright, that is the convention in Python. Okay, so if I want to print the first item there, okay, if I want to print the first item there, I can just say print, okay, in bracket norm, then square bracket, I'm going to make reference to the index. I want to print out only 2. I'll say put 0 in the square brackets. Okay, I'll run that code, and if I run this code, I should expect 2 to be printed out. You can see that 2 has been printed out there. Alright, so I actually was able to access my 2 in this list, Python list, by using the index. Okay, I know that the index of 2 is the first item there, so the index is 0. I start counting from 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So that is how it works. Okay, good. So if I want to print the next 3 items here, I'm going to change this. I will just put a column there, and I'll come here. I'll say 0, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to write 3. So what happens? I want to print the next 3 items, but I'm writing 3. Now 3 is supposed to stop at 8. Okay, so the Python program will not print the last number there. It will rather print 2, 4, 6. So if I run this code now, 2, 4, 6 will be printed out. Okay, 2, 4, 6 will be printed out. All right, so this is what we call object slicing in Python. Okay, this is what we call this is what we call object slicing in Python. Object slicing, okay, in Python program. Okay, so it's actually one of the ways we can actually access items from our Python list. Now you can access any of the items. So the other thing I want to tell us about the indexing, apart from this, okay, another way you can actually access the items in this list. Okay, I initially explained that the index goes from 0 to, and it progresses. Okay, now also from the last items by your rights, you can start with -1. Okay, so we'll call it negative number index. Okay, negative index number index. Okay, now 10 here is -1, 9 is going to be -2, 8 is going to be -3, 6 is going to be -4. It keeps going. Okay, now let's see how we can access 10 from that list. I can say print. I'm going to access 10 using my negative index. Okay, so I'm going to say print in bracket num again, then in square brackets I'm going to say -1. Okay, -1 makes reference to the first item from your right in your list. Okay, so I'm going to run this code. You can see that 10 has been printed out. 10 has been printed out. So that is just it in your indexing. Okay, it goes from negative. You either use a positive index or you use the negative. Okay, for the negative, the first number by your left begins the number. So it goes that way from minus, then downward. Okay, -1 downward. So that is how you can actually access items from your list. Okay, if you want to print the entire list, you just go ahead and say print null. Print null. Okay, print null. If you run the code, I should have my list printed. So you have the list printed. Now what if I want to change the value of item in my list? Maybe I want to change the value of 2 to 12. It's possible. All I need to know, I need to know the index of my 2. And I know that the index of my 2 is, is 0. Okay, now I can simply say norm. Okay, norm bracket 0. Okay, norm bracket 0 is equals to, it's going to be in square brackets. Okay, 0 is equals to 12. I want to change it to 12. Let's see what happens there. So I say print norm. Okay, let me run the code and see what happens. Now you can see, now we have a new list printed out, a new list. But something noticeable in the new list is that 2 has been replaced with the number 12. Okay, 2 has been replaced. Now that is a way of actually changing values. That's why we say Python list is immutable. Simply means that you can actually change items in the Python list. So we've successfully changed our 2 to 12. Okay, yes. So also you can also add items into your Python list. You can add items into your Python list by using the command we call append. The append command. Okay, so if I want to add item, I can say norm. Okay, dot append. Okay, append. Then whatever I want to append, I can append a number. I can append 13 or let me say 45. Okay, then I say print norm. Print norm. Okay, so if I'm printing out my norm, I'm going to have I'll just run it. Now we have a new list also down here. We have a new list generated. Well, something noticeable in the new list is that an item has been added, which is 45. So 45 has been added to the new list. Okay, so these are few of the modifications we can actually make. So apart from that, you can also add a list to a list. Okay, you can add a list to a list. For instance, if I say norm again, I can say norm using my append as well. I can say norm dot append. Okay, dot append. Then I would add a list. Okay, I can just add a list. I can say another list 3, 5, 9. So I want to append this list into my old list. I'll just go ahead and print norm again. Print my list again, norm. It should give me a new list. Norm, okay? So now I'll run the code. Good. So I have a new list created there. If you look at it there, you can see a new list has been created. Okay, so a new list has been created. So these are the few things, modifications we can do to our list. Okay, the modifications we can actually do to our lists. So that is just it. So I want you to, as much as possible, to find a way to go through all this, or what we are actually talking about now. Okay, so let's see how we can actually go through all that, all what we have studied so far. See how we can go through it and follow up. Okay, let's see how we can do that. Like I said, practice is very, very important. Practice is very, very important. So, and the Python list is the most used. Sorry. Like I said, the Python list is the most used because of its flexibility. Okay, you can actually make changes when you're using your Python list. You can make a lot of changes and do a lot of things using your Python list. So the next thing we are briefly going to look at there is the Python tuple. I talked about the Python tuple. So I'll just go ahead to clean the programs, the code we wrote here. I'll just wipe up the code we wrote here. Okay, just wipe up the code and okay, I'll just wipe up that code. In the last class, we talked about Python tuple. Okay, Python tuple. That was what we talked about in the last class as well. And I said it's similar to the Python list, but you need to know the differences. Python tuple. Okay. So I said, if you remember very well, I said Python tuples are immutable. You know, I said Python lists is mutable. So Python tuple is not mutable, it's immutable. So Python tuple. Python tuple immutable. Okay. And it simply means you can make changes to Python tuples. You can make changes. Sorry, not that you cannot. You can actually access items, but you cannot change the items in a Python tuple. Okay, now I can have my norm equals to parentheses, and I still have the same item I had before, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Okay. Now, this is a very good example of Python tuple. Alright, it's a very good example of Python tuple. And I can actually access items in Python tuples. I can access them by printing any one I want. I can use a slicing method as well, list slicing method, to also print items. I can say norm. Sorry, I can say print in bracket norm. Okay, norm, then in quotes. Okay, I can use the indexing now to access items. I can use my indexing to access items here. I can say already we know the indexing pattern, so I don't need to go over that again. I told us initially that in the indexing, from the left hand side to the right, you're actually going from 0 to all the positive numbers you have, as long as your list is. So if I want to access 4, definitely it's going to be index 1. Okay, index 1. So if I run my code, okay, 4 will be printed out. It's just a similar, pattern we actually adopted while dealing with our Python lists. So in this case now we're dealing with a tuple. But let me clearly point something out, and that is actually the difference between the Python list and the Python tuple. You need to know how to present them. While using my Python list, the parentheses, I use the square brackets. Okay, but in my Python tuple, I used I'm using a parenthesis now. Okay, so if you want, you can also find out the type. Okay, the type as well, the type of number system you're dealing with. Here we're dealing with Python tuple. If I just go here, if I decide to, if I want to know the type, I can just say I can say verify. For instance, I can say verify equals to, I'll still use my type function, type. Okay, norm in bracket norm. Norm is the variable assigned to my tuple. I want to know the type. Is this a list or a tuple or a set, okay, or a dictionary? What's it actually? I want to know. So that's why I want to use this. Verify equals to type number, and then I'll just go ahead and print my verify. Print, okay, verify. Now this should give me, it should tell me what I'm dealing with here. Okay, if I run my code, it should tell me that this is a tuple. Okay, the class, you can see class tuple clearly written out here. So I'm dealing with a tuple. Okay, I'm dealing with a tuple. So this is what it means. Now, okay, now like I said, I'm dealing with a tuple. Sorry. Okay. You can, like I said, you can access items the same way we actually access our items from the Python lists. For instance, I can actually use the slicing option by saying print and bracket norm, then square bracket 0 0 2 3. Okay, if I run this code, I'm going to have 246 printed out. You can see that 246 have been printed out as I run my code. Okay, so these are some of the things we need to know. You can access just the same way we access our list. We can also access our tuple, our Python tuple, just the same format we access our list. But one thing we cannot do here is that we cannot change. Okay, we cannot change the values or the items in our tuple. For instance, if we can just print, I can just say, okay, I can say norm. Okay, I can say norm, then I make reference to, maybe I want to change 4. Okay, I want to change 3 with the index 2. Sorry, I want to change 6 with the index 2. Okay, norm with index, square bracket index 6. Okay, sorry. Okay, equals to, I want to change it to 10. Okay, now I want to change this 6 here to 10. That's what I just did here. So I'm going to, I made a mistake here. I'm going to correct that mistake. It's supposed to be 2, index 2. Index 2, because in this tuple it goes from 0 upwards. So 0, 1, 2. 6 is 2. So that's why I'm writing 2 as the index here. I believe you are actually following. I want to, as much as possible, I want to present this lesson in a very understandable way. So now this means I want to change my 6 to 10. That's what it means. But the reference here, norm square bracket 2, means I'm using the index of the bracket, second index, with 0, 1, 2. Okay, I want to replace 6 with 10. I did this to our list and it actually works, but here it won't work because we are dealing with a tuple. And I wrote here that Python tuples are immutable. That means you cannot change the items in a Python tuple. So if I run this code now, it's going to give me an error. You can see the error message. Tuple object does not support item assignments. Okay, so Python tuples do not support item assignment. So that is the message we're getting right there. So let's understand all this. Okay, so I'm going to allow you to go through all we have discussed now, practice them, and make all your questions ready. I would like to entertain as many questions as possible on this. Okay, that is how far we can go now, and Like I said, practice is everything. If you don't practice, you wouldn't understand what we're saying here. Okay, so practice is all that we need. Let's try as much as possible to do all the practice that we need to. Okay, so for now, it is goodbye. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very